you, I won't be dancing here tonight. I just want to tell you a very simple story. The fact is, the world is wasting over 20 million metric tons of perfectly good fish every year. 20 million metric tons is actually 20 billion kilos, 40 billion pounds. It's actually nearly 40 billion dishes. And Iceland wants to change that drastically. And we can do that. And I'll show you how we can do that. We've done it here. We want it to be done all around the world. What we might do actually, Stefan, do you have a fish back doors?
Of course.
Bring the fish. The only thing that I'm worried about, guys, if there are any city slickers here, not wanting to see blood, just look away. Oh, that's a beautiful creature, Stefan. You did a really good job there.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So what I want to do here is just to fillet the fish. This is what Icelanders do actually all day. We need to fillet 60 million cods, around probably 5 million salmon. Oh, sorry guys, this was exactly what could have happened. But anyway. So that's basically how we fillet fish. And if there's blood, don't worry about it. It's absolutely fine. It is a land-farmed fish, so we're even better with that as well.
No need for svunta?
Oh, we got svunta. That would be great actually, because it's actually getting kind of noisy here. This is service. This is beautiful service. Stefan, you're a nice guy, I must say.
You said you were not going to dance, but what are we doing now?
Anyway, guys, this is what we call a fillet. This is what the world does with the fish. This is what the world throws away. 40% up to 60% of the fish, and they define it as waste, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact is, in Iceland, we did in the past this, in the 70s and 60s, where we were probably getting for a 10-pounder something like $50 for a cod. We're up to $5,000 right now. $5,000 for each cod. And what we're emphasizing here is that this is not only just monetary issue, this is also good for the communities. Small communities all around the Iceland are actually benefiting from creating value, creating interesting jobs, and these jobs come from creating products that are used all around the world, from the colored drink to some of the biotechnological projects, etc., etc. The beautiful thing also for the investors here is that this is not only social responsibility and sustainability, this is also an economic value. So now we estimate, and listen to this, companies in Iceland that are just using what we call waste in other countries have probably a worth of around $3 billion US. And this is crustacean shells, these are pelagic fish, this is white fish, this is farmed fish. And we have endless opportunities. What we need still is to work on the idea to get more people, more startups to work on these things. You need to clean up this thing here, Stefan. What's going on here? So what we aim at the Iceland Ocean Cluster is basically to build a network now. Thank you, Stefan. You're really good, doing a good job. I have that. So what we are trying to do now is to build a network all around the world with clusters that have missions to connect people, because what we need are the pharmaceutical companies to talk to the fishermen and the beauty products to be also a part of this revolution. And to do so, we need ambassadors all around the world. And the beautiful thing is that we have with us now one of the absolute best ambassadors when it comes to blue food in the world. And she's been amazing for me with my and our mission to take it on a global scale. I want to welcome Jennifer Bushman to the States. Let's give her a good applause.
solutions, we're done. We're raising saltwater shrimp over 1,000 miles away from the nearest ocean.
A community that has to take care of itself, that can provide for itself, has to start with being able to feed itself.
Everybody's working together to do what's best.
All right, JB, we are fully loaded.
It has to be a collaborative effort.
The more you know, the more you can do better.
First carp of the day.
This is your farm! You guys, this is so cool! You're beautiful.
We can make a change. We are change.
This is why we do what we do.
I wish I would help you, but I think I've got a salmonish now, so that's...
I know. This is so fun.
Anyway, what were we seeing here now?
So this was part of a docu-series about how much hope there truly is in the water and how it actually can be incredibly contributive when it comes to our future food planning. And a lot of times when you talk about ocean, and we hear NGOs and others talk about it, they do not align the importance of water protection, but with water production. And we can really produce well from our waters, utilize the fish, but also be able to protect the environment for future generations.
Brilliant. Your narrative, I think what's so amazing following your work with Hope in the Water, for instance, now 6 million people have been viewing it, or is it getting higher in numbers?
Yes, I mean, we've actually been seen globally.
Yeah.
There have been, in the United States alone, over 8 million people have watched it. And, you know, when we think about public television, public media at large, and how many of you out there are content producers? Even if all you're doing is putting it up on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, I mean, we essentially are a generation of content producers. And one of the things that you always have to be thinking about when it comes to making content is what is the impact that you want to have with it. Because we're spending billions of dollars to talk about things like climate change, but guess what? Documentaries, docu-series, content is not changing consumptive behavior. And data and figures and graphs and all of those things are not changing the narrative as we face some of the greatest challenges on the planet. So it really is about producing great content that you saw was celebrity driven, but Thor, as you know, because he was featured and the Icelandic Ocean Cluster was featured in season 1, it's really about what you do with it ultimately. So in our plan, we were actually putting together a narrative that then we knew was going to, for example, go into schools. Well, Netflix, Apple, all of the folks that are on network have paywalls and don't allow access to content. So as we were looking at who would get the privilege of airing something like this, we thought public media, public broadcasting was the most important. And over 440,000 teachers, grades 6 through 12, in what we call STEM, science, technology, education, and career development, have actually been able to utilize the learning media toolkits from the series. So the idea is not just producing the series to air it, but all of the ancillary things you do for impact around it.
Amazing. I love the storytelling. Let's give her up. Still, I think the issue here, even in Iceland, is that this fishing nation is becoming a big pizza lover country. So we are even in Iceland, it's a challenge to get people on board, to get investors on board as well. They don't know that much about the ocean. It's kind of a black spot for us. How can we make a difference here?
there's so much that comes from learning and education. So for us, it was taking this content, for example, and you were touring with me to be able to talk to different audiences, bring what we call character-driven stories and the character's perspective behind the narrative that we were creating. So if it was with chefs, for example, then we were talking about all of the areas that chefs could actually have to impact menu and how important that storytelling is. But how many times have you sat down, talked to an investor, and they did not have any idea about this background? So the idea really was to take the content, utilize it, speak in different places and different spaces, because at the end of the day, viewers and listeners and readers ultimately are investors, they're voters, they're lawmakers. Every single thing begins with socializing trust through storytelling.
How can we take the Icelandic model all the way to the US, for instance?
Well, I mean, the good news is it's already being utilized, and Iceland is actually becoming more and more an example. One of the things we will say is that nothing happens in the absence of storytelling. And a lot of times taking a model ends up becoming a narrative right out of the gate about profit, about what's going to be the return of investment, what's going to be the return on menu, what's the price of the fish, how old is it, where did it come from. The most important thing is no value exists in the absence of storytelling. So don't rush the story. Because when you do, no matter what audience you're in, one-on-one, like you and I, or a group of investors, or this incredible convening that we're having today, if you don't tell your story, someone else is going to tell it for you.
You talked about the schools that I think are a really important part of the whole movement. How can we do even more with students and young people to engage them into understanding more about the blue economy and the blue food?
I mean, I think so much of it starts at the very beginning. I mean, even in kindergarten and first grade and second grade, where you have the moment sitting at the table, having a meal, having a conversation. We know that children will eat 90%, over 90% of the foods they participate in making. So we have to look at time in the kitchen and time at the table as valuable and not time wasted. It begins there. And then when we look at areas where a teacher can begin to utilize content, then what happens is something that's 54 minutes needs to get put into bite-sized pieces. And so, for example, in our case, we took teachers out and we took them to kelp farms. And they actually got to harvest the kelp with the farmers. And then we brought it back to the classrooms. We utilized those toolkits. They were able to cook with the kelp, do art with the kelp, all kinds of learning about how important kelp is to the environment and the ocean environment. And then those are lessons they carry with them. So the more hands-on it can be, the better it will be.
That's brilliant. I was actually going to mention kelp because it's such a fantastic opportunity, but we still have a lot of opportunity to harvest kelp, but to get it into the market has been really difficult, to get people to and companies to use it and change behaviors as well. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, yes, we've been eating things like kelp and seaweed for thousands of years. For those of you that don't eat fish, you don't eat meat, thinking in your vegan or your vegetarian diet about sea vegetables, algae, kelps are so important because they are regenerative and because they grow so quickly. Like in some cases, a species of kelp can grow as much as 10 feet a week with no inputs. And not only that, it actually lowers acidity levels, lowers temperature levels in ocean environments, becoming extremely regenerative. So part of it is making sure that companies, large-scale companies, investors understand how to utilize that ingredient. So what ends up happening is your favorite tomato sauce for spaghetti can have things like kelp puree in it, up to 25%, in the same way that you use mushrooms for the umami in your foods. So it's really utilize them as part of your, what I call your sea pantry, having those kelps and seaweeds in the pantry every single day, where you're sprinkling them over popcorn, you're using them in different dishes, and I will tell you, you can create a healthier environment in the ocean just by the way you snack. Because if we were to replace all of those potato chips with even a little bit of kelp, it would make a huge difference in what's the future of our ocean and what that's going to mean for us.
I'm just wondering if there are any final words that might connect Iceland with what we're talking about here. Any suggestions what Icelanders could do, both locally and internationally, to spread the news, spread the good sort of message that we have here?
One of the things that you may not know is that because of your geothermal energy, because of the access to water that you have, you are one of the, and will continue to be, one of the most important seafood producers in the world. Your land-based aquaculture, the salmon farming that is going on and that's going to build on land in the future, will be the greatest resource of salmon in the future. And countries all over the world are not only investing in Iceland, but they're also going to count on you as a resource and as an example. So yell that from the rooftops. Make sure that you're telling that story, that you're really showing the world that you're small but mighty, and that there are significant and important examples of this. You are a resilient culture. And one of the things that I think is so important is that without hope, we cannot move forward. And if you are nothing else, you are champions of resiliency and hope as an example for what the world is going to look like as we set the table for the future of food.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.